I figured this chapter was gonna have a lot more like crazy action, like the way that Undead Unluck has gone. Sometimes just go all over the place. You know, people got crazy powers, so they're able to do way more. And I mean, they even had what are essentially two kaiju fighting here with Uma Burn and Uma Spoil. But the thing that I actually really liked about the chapter was not even the action. I liked the interactions that the characters had with the Umas. Like you see Juiz, and like it's a flashback. She's like pretty much telling Uma Spoil that she's gonna require his services to go after Burn and whatnot. And he's like, I don't really know if I want to do that. He's definitely afraid of her because it's just his core. And Juiz is clearly very powerful, so he's got to be careful. And I wouldn't imagine if he refused that she wouldn't just pierce him with her sword. Like I think that's something that he just knows from their confrontation. Like she absolutely is serious when she said that she would be perfectly fine taking him out of the equation. She is somebody who looks at the bigger picture because she's been using the art, so she knows about like different timeline or the different attempts and the timelines and stuff. But I liked the battle itself. I thought it was just really cool when Juiz is like, oh, you're at a disadvantage against Burn, and Uma Spoil's like, that's a bunch of bullshit, and shoots one of his spoil beams through it. Doesn't do anything because obviously fire doesn't spoil. It's not gonna rot. It's fire. And I really liked just seeing like these big monsters and their getting some of their character. I thought that was very surprising. I didn't really think we'd ever really get more of Uma Spoil like this. And I thought that was just really cool in general. But plus, Burn doesn't seem to speak English or any form of like normal language. But with Spoil, he can understand him, and I thought that was like a really interesting touch into the chapter itself. But while they're talking, and you have just this really like odd back and forth. But when Spoil's like, Burn of Injustice is making you protect the lady, that means you feel indebted to, I think he calls him Mr. Stubble, but it's Billy. And he's making fun of him being a pushover, because obviously Injustice, they're conceptual powers, so you have to have the loyalty towards somebody in order to switch it. And I really like that. So essentially Juiz's power is like she can make somebody, like if you're, say, loyal to one guy, she could make your loyalty to that person loyalty to her instead. Which is really, again, really interesting. I like her power. The weird abilities that they have is, always really cool. But when they're talking, Spoil is like saying how they're like, concept types. And then the dude, I think his name was Tella or Tellis or something. He's like the minion for Billy. He's like concept. And I'm like, so I'm wondering if there's tiers to the negators, because from what I understand, the way that their powers work is that they have these rules essentially established by God. Like Andy's is undead, and it's like the rule of death. He doesn't apply to that, so he can't die. Whereas when you have someone like, again, Juiz, like Injustice, like it's along these lines of you are messing with the idea of that itself. Very, very good power, like outright. Like it's cool because they're hacks in concept, because it's not magic, it's not like a mutation or anything. It's really you're messing with the thing itself. But we haven't really had anything like too crazy of powers overall. Like they haven't had any that were just like so far out there that it's like, how are any of the characters going to beat this guy so far? But I mean, like we're still pretty fresh in the series. We like 55 chapters. I mean, that's still a good chunk in, but like we don't know how far it's going to go, and we don't know what their big people are going to be like, because obviously they're going to be fighting God at some point. But while they're doing their thing, I like that Burn's whole thing is that when he was like saying why he was doing all this is that he wants to meet essentially God again. He wants to meet their creator, and that to me gives like a lot of just general questions about like the Umas in general, because Spoil's like, I don't know, we don't have any childhood memories. So is there like a spot where God like created them and like they existed somewhere before coming into the world? Like, I don't know, some form of weird celestial waiting room or something. It's very strange when you think about it, because it's like these guys aren't just big mindless monsters. They are like their own characters, and I like that a lot. I like that they have a personality, they have their own thought process, and like with Burn, he's got his own goals and aspirations. He wants to meet God again for making him. So it just adds like a very interesting dynamic to future Umas as well. Because like we haven't seen a lot, but it makes me like wonder like for all the other ones, what are their takes on this? And especially some of the bigger ones, because wasn't it like Uma Galaxy? I like as far as we know, that's probably like what the biggest one. I'd have to go back and look at the Umas, but I think that's like the craziest one we've seen of just like, hey, I'm gonna spawn space and just goes up in the sky and like makes space and everything exist. Very cool in just the general layout of it, but it's like, well, what would that guy have to say about it? Because that's such a big one that it would like I feel like that one would know something about God, but maybe like none of them just do. I don't know. And at the same time, like I wonder what Uma's Galaxy would have been like if it didn't just go out and like implement its rule. If they fought it instead, like how powerful would it have been? Because that was one of the things I was talking about. Like just like they have odd powers and they've got some good hacks abilities and whatnot, but they haven't had anything that's just so unfair that's like none of the characters can deal with it. And an easy example to use is Jujutsu Kaisen is blown up right now. Is like there are characters with some pretty neat abilities and whatnot, but when you compare him to, like, Satoru, like, he just is unfair. His powers are unfairly above everyone else's. That's just like, damn, well, how are they going to do anything to this guy? And we haven't had that yet in Undead Unluck. I think the closest one is Andy, but it's like, Victor. But Victor, like, from what we've seen, like, there's a level to the regeneration and whatnot. I don't know about Victor, actually, fully, because, like, his is a little different. They had to kind of cheat for him, and, like, he ended up busting out anyway. And I don't think he was fighting all out. He could easily be like the one if he's just unkillable at all times. You would have to have, again, because their powers are conceptual, you would have to have a level of conceptual destruction or some form of way to seal him or his abilities. You have to do something that completely bypasses, like, the way his power works. Like, you can't, like, it wouldn't be... I don't think you could just beat him. Though, granted, he could be limited on stamina, but that's completely, like, a unconfirmed thing. Because if he's undead... and he's got like absurd stats already, superpowered abilities and whatnot, then it wouldn't surprise me if he's like one of those characters that could just fight for days or whatever. Or if like because he's undead, he just doesn't run out of stamina for whatever reason. I don't know. Either way, good chapter. It's just funny because, like, I didn't talk much about Juiz and Billy, and there's some stuff at the end when she's like, why aren't you fighting me like you mean it? You didn't use injustice. And he got hit by the spoil, so his, like, arm is rotting, and he seems to have regenerated with Andy's undead. So, like, I'm assuming he's going to do it again. And at the same time, like, his eyes look okay, but isn't he supposed to be blind? So maybe he fixed those too. Billy's a very interesting character, like, on top of that. I'm so curious as to, like, what his whole deal is, because his betrayal was so out of nowhere that we didn't have any time to like get to know his character, I think. So it was just like, well, we're gonna probably get to know him through this betrayal and through these events. So I'm definitely looking forward to how these are gonna play out and what the next chapter is gonna bring, because obviously he can't die. It'd be so weird if they just killed him off here. Like he just got introduced as this big bad guy leader, so I don't want him just to get axed already. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this chapter. It was a really fast read chapter, and like I said, the things that I mostly wanted to talk about was the whole stuff with the Umas and how they seem to have their own consciousness outside of just, being maniacal bad guys. Because Spoil even says that, like, one thing that they're supposed to do is to make humans suffer. They are essentially made as the big boss bad guys for the whole game that God's doing, so it makes sense. But I like seeing some insight onto them. I thought that was really good. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this chapter, and I really appreciate thumbs up the video, prefer the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.